In this video, we're going to cover 3 fundamental exercises to begin truly correcting the dynamic function from your foot as it affects your hip and your lower back. A simple solution for the toe band I'm using is to get 1/2 inch thick elastic waistband, tie it so that the folded length is 6 3/4 inches. This training is going to cover strengthening 2 specific muscles of the big toe and the arch of the foot and how that initiates the dynamic function in the foot and sets the tone for how everything else up the kinetic chain can activate. Put the band around your heel so your heel's in the center, and then you're going to set it to pull the band to the outside over the top of your foot so you can attach it under the pad of your big toe. This will give you good resistance to help strengthen those small muscles for the big toe. Make sure the band's just evenly spread out. Put a yoga block between your thighs at the level of your knee. Set your ankles underneath your knees. Make sure your foot's not flaring out. You want your toes right in line with your heel. The first part is to keep the ball of the foot down as you lift the toes up, and then you're going to press the pad of the big toe into the band away from the small toes. Second part is crunching, pressing the pads of the toes into the ground as you lift the ball up and shorten the arch and lifting up through the arch. But keep that heel flat to the ground. It should not be moving. So lift those toes up, keeping the ball down, press the big toe away from the small toes, press the pad down into the ground and crunch that foot back. And then control it back to the relaxed position. Okay, so let's do it together. You're going to take a nice deep breath in, set attention through the rest of your body, lift those toes up while you keep the ball of the foot down. Now press the pad of the big toe into the band away from the small toes and press the pads deep into the floor as that ball of the foot lifts up. You shorten through the arch, keeping that heel down, and then control it back. Okay, lift those toes up, keeping the ball down. Press the pads down into the ground and pull back as you lift the ball of the foot up and shorten that arch. Control it back to the start. Keep the ball of the foot down, lift the toes, then press the pad of the big toe away from the small toes and into the ground, and then crunch back, lifting the ball of the foot off the ground, shortening the arch. This is number 4. Press that pad down and away from the small toes and then through the floor. Feel about you're crunching through that arch, the ball of the foot lifts up and you're controlling it back. 5. You should begin feeling that tension building along the edge of the ball of the foot and into the arch as we strengthen that small muscle for the big toe. Lift, keep the ball down, press it down and away from the small toes. Now all the pads, press them down and through the floor as you crunch them back, lifting the ball of the foot, shortening the arch, keep the heel down and control it back. Press through the floor as you crunch that arch back towards your heel. Keep that heel anchored and control it back. Lift. Press away from the small toes and then down into the floor as you crunch back. Lift. Press it down and away. Last one here. Lift. Press that big toe away from the small toe, spread them out, and then crunch them together and through the floor as you shorten the arch. Control it back and let's switch sides. So you're just going to put the band around your other heel, pull it to the outside of the foot over the top, and then anchor it underneath the pad of your big toe. Make sure the tension is set even through the band. Set yourself up in the chair again. Take a nice deep breath in. Draw in your lower abdomen. Set your core. Keep the ball of the foot down as you lift the toes, and then press that big toe away from the small toes. And then all the pads of the toe into the floor as you lift the ball of the foot and crunch through the arch, keeping that heel in place. Control it back. Lift up. Press that big toe away from the small toes as you bring it down, and then all the pads together will crunch through the floor, and the toes will be crunching together at that point. Lift, press the big toe away from the small toes, and now into the floor and together as you lift the ball of the foot, crunching through the arch, keeping that heel in place. This is number 4. Keep the ball of the foot down, lift the toes, now press that big toe away from the small toes, and then now
together as you press the pads through the floor, lifting the ball of the foot, crunching the arch, and control it back. For 5, press that big toe away from the small toes as you bring it down, and then through the floor, crunching through that arch. And lift for 6. Press that pad through. Again, you want to start feeling that tension along the outside edge of that ball of the foot and into the arch. Really building some strength in those small muscles of that big toe that are so responsible for initiating the other stabilizing muscles for the arch that are in the lower leg. Press down and away. And then as you bring them pressing through the floor, crunch those toes together as you lift through the arch. Just make sure that heel isn't moving around. That's a common thing that will happen in the beginning. Control it back. And then we're going to lift for 10. Our last rep, keep the ball of the foot down, lift the big toe, press the big toe away from the small toes and down, and then all the pads deep into the floor as you crunch them together. Lift the ball of the foot, shorten the arch, then control it back. Good job.
This next training is going to focus on stretching the muscle in the front of your shin as it attaches underneath the foot in the main arch. So we're going to stretch that tissue. It gets really very tight. And then we're going to immediately begin by activating the muscle that opposes it. Your posterior tibialis also attaches under your arch, but is really important for stabilizing the ankle and that dynamic function through the arch of the foot.
Set yourself up so that you can kneel on a pad or a rolled up yoga mat. You're going to put the big toes so that they're touching together and the heels as spread far apart as you can. And then you're going to sit back on the heels. So this is the base position. If you have some discomfort in your knees or there's too much tightness in the front of your shins, use a Pilates ball underneath or behind your knees to sit on to give you a little bit of space. But if you have a lot of tightness or a lot of discomfort, then you can use something very thick like this bolster or folded up pillows or towels, and that will give you a lot of support if you have a lot of tightness. Now, if you have a lot of flexibility like I do, then you want to roll up the back of your yoga mat. This way, you're going to put the tops of your toes on that. So make sure it's really just the tops of your toes to give you some extra room to get that stretch. Having yoga blocks under your hands can be helpful to support you during this 2-minute stretch. And we will begin by taking a breath in for a count of 4. And then you're going to breathe out for a count of 8. That slow exhale is really helpful at calming your nervous system and allowing that tissue to release so that as you're holding this for the 2 minutes, you should feel some flexibility opening up in the front of your shin and your ankle. And if that does happen, you can position yourself to get a little bit deeper into the stretch. Let's breathe in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't rush it. Enjoy that relaxation, the calming that this brings. Breathe in for 4. Really expand your rib cage, expand your belly as big as you can. And breathe out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more. Breathe in for 4. And out for 8. Great job. Now stay in this position. This is an end range for your ankle. So we wouldn't really be able to do any actual lifting or movement from this position. So we need to relax the ankle into more of a mid-range. So you'll go into a tall kneeling and you'll roll up your yoga mat if you haven't already so that the front of your ankle is actually resting on it. So your toes will be touching the floor and your big toes will be touching each other with your heels spread apart as much as you can. Put the yoga block between your knees to help you set your foundational tension, your irradiation. Take a breath in, and you're going to only move the ankle as you press the pad of that big toe up to the ceiling. Think about like pointing those toes and pressing up, and you'll really feel a contraction through that arch and the inside of that ankle. We're going to do 15 repetitions of this. Let's move into number 6. Pressing through the pad of that big toe. If you start to get a cramp in the arch of your foot, this is a good thing. I want you to keep moving through that cramp. Keep trying to tighten up. Believe it or not, that is going to help it go away and actually help your progress much faster than if you try to get out of this position and stretch it. So just keep pressing the pad of the big toe up towards the ceiling, pointing those toes, crunching that arch and the inside of that ankle, squeezing it at the top. 2 more. 14. Squeeze, control it back down. 15. Squeeze, 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 and control it back down. Good job. Rest. And reset our tension. Take a deep breath in. As you let that breath out, draw on your low abdomen. Tighten up the rest of your body and lift for 1. Again, pressing the pad of the big toe up towards the ceiling, crunching through that arch. Keep that heel rotated out so you can feel it along the inside of your ankle. Good. Number 6, keep those heels rotated out and pointing that big toe, pressing up the ceiling. Again, only moving through the ankle. Don't move from the knee. The front of your ankle should maintain in contact with your rolled up yoga mat. Squeeze into that arch in the inside of your ankle at the top. Just have 4 more here. Is number 12. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze the top. Keep pointing that big toe towards the other foot and that heel rotated out as far as you can. Control every tiny bit of movement through this. Good job. Control it down. Pause and then relax. Great job.
Let's begin training that rotation of our lower leg at the knee and strengthening our quad and inner hamstring in the process.
So set yourself up sitting on the edge of a seat, and you're going to put the yoga block between your thighs, and your foot should slide on the floor. So a towel under your foot or a piece of paper to help you. And we're going to rotate that lower leg specifically at the knee and then strengthen the quad and hamstring, inner hamstring. So when we're contracting back, you want to make sure that's the inner part of the hamstring you're really squeezing hard, because usually it's gotten very weak. Now we're going to set our foundation. So you're going to take a nice deep breath in. As you let your breath out, draw on that lower abdomen, contract everything else in your body, and rotate that lower leg in, hold it, and squeeze your quad. Contract that quad as much as you can. Pause the top, and now we're going to reverse it. So you're going to keep that lower leg turned to the inside as you squeeze that hamstring and bring that foot back as far as you can. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Remember, you're trying to find new space, so don't rush this. Smooth, slow, controlled motion is very important. You can rest and reset. Rotate that lower leg to the inside. Squeeze that quad, that front of your thighs. You straighten out that knee. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Again, you're trying to move smooth, slow, controlled motion in both directions. You're trying to gain new neural activation of this tissue as well as new available motion. Squeeze that inside hamstring. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. You should not be moving anywhere else in your body as you're bending and straightening your knee. Control it back and rest. Let's reset. Take a nice deep breath in. Draw on that lower abdomen. Tighten everything else up in your body so you can isolate that joint motion. Rotate in. Squeeze that quad, straighten out the knee. Nothing else should be moving. You don't see me moving around in my chair. Control it back. Start bending the knee. Smooth, slow, controlled motion as you're really contracting that inside of that hamstring. And you feel like you've gotten to the end point. Squeeze even more. Get new control and new activation there. Control it back. Pause and rest. Let's do the other side. Take a nice deep breath in. As you let the breath out, draw in your core, tighten everything else in your body. Rotate that lower leg to the inside. Hold it as you squeeze that quad and straighten out that leg. See that shaking? I have a lot of good neural learning happening here. More muscle fiber recruitment is happening that I haven't had. And I'm working on making the motion smooth and controlled. So it's very shaky and aberrant right now, but the more I practice this, the better and the smoother it will become. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Even if you think you've gotten to the end point, squeeze more. And now control it back, pause, and then you can rest. Okay, let's reset. Take a breath in. Reset that full contraction, rotate that lower leg to the inside of the knee, squeeze that block so you're not moving anything else. Now straighten out the knees, squeeze that quad. Enjoy those shakes. Know that that's your body learning and you're getting stronger very effectively. Bending that knee back, smooth, controlled motion through that arc. Keep that lower leg turned in. Squeeze that hamstring. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Pull it back. Go as farther than you think you can. And move slower than you think you can. Control it back. Pause and rest. Last one. Take a nice deep breath in. Draw in that core. Tighten everything else up as much as you can. Turn the lower leg to the inside. Hold it. Now contract your quad and straighten out that knee. Keep that lower leg turned to the inside as best you can. Squeeze that quad. Try not to move anything else in your body. Your only motion should be at the knee joint. Now keep that lower leg turned in and reverse the motion. You're going to try to bend it back, working on gaining some smooth, controlled, slow motion. Squeeze that hamstring. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. If you think you've got the end point, squeeze more. Control it back. Great job.